want a piece of me?
Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Good morning, Vietnam! I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I feel the need for speed.
I wish I knew how to quit you.
Love means never having to say you're sorry.
You do. You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
What's up, film fans? It's the return of bonus episodes. Welcome to the Cine-Men Movie Podcast. I'm your host, Juan, and I am joined by these two young Jedis. Craig.
Yo.
Edward.
What's up, folks?
It's another bonus edition of the Cine-Men Movie Podcast, guys, and we're here. We're talking the 20th anniversary of Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, right here on today's episode. Craig, you're officially getting your bonus episode cherry pop today. So congratulations.
It doesn't feel so good, but
are in order. So I'm excited. Craig's first bonus episode. Ed, this is your first bonus episode in quite some time. But if you guys have not joined us for a bonus episode, it's completely ad-free, segment-free. It's just as quick as a one-night stand. We're in, we're out. We lay $5 down on the table. We're done for the day.
It's the meat and potatoes.
But for anybody who has never joined us on this YouTube channel, now all of our bonus episodes are exclusive to this YouTube channel. So check them out every single Thursday at 7:30 p.m. If you did not join us for last Monday's episode, we talked all about Spawn. You can check it out wherever you listen to podcasts at Anchor, Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Amazon Music, TuneIn, Stitcher, wherever you listen to podcasts at.
All the streams.
Whatever your heart and wallet desire.
And then you can find us on the social media, facebook.com/The Cine-Men Movie Podcast. Instagram is all one word, The Cine-Men Movie Podcast, and the Twitter is at Cinemen405. You can also leave us emails, leave us some star ratings, CINEMEN921 at gmail.com, and we'll read your star rating on Monday's episode. Speaking of Monday will have a special start time. Monday we will start at 1 p.m. this Monday, July 4th, for our 200th episode live on location at Historic Rodeo Cinema. Again, that's this Monday only, live July the 4th.
Sorry.
So, but let's dig into it. Today we're talking about Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. There's only 2 Star Wars movies we haven't covered. It's this one and Episode 3. If you guys want to hear us talk about Star Wars Episode 1, we talked about it last year, Episode 146. So go back and check it out as we talked all about the first prequel, Episode 1. 10 years after initially meeting, Anakin Skywalker shares the forbidden romance with Padme, while Obi-Wan Kenobi investigates an assassination attempt on the senator and discovers a secret clone army crafted for the Jedi. Currently at IMDb, it starts at 6.6, Rotten Tomatoes at 66%, the Metascore is at 54%, while Edward and the Google users have it at 87%. With a budget of $115 million, it grossed a little over $653 million at the box office, starring Hayden Christensen, Natalie Portman, Ewan McGregor, Christopher Lee, Samuel Jackson, Frank Oz, Ian McDormand, Jimmy Smiths, Jack Thompson, Ahmed Best, Rose Byron, and directed and written screenplay by George Lucas. Craig, we'll start with you, man. Do you remember the first time that you've seen this movie, and what was it like revisiting for the episode?
I just remember getting it. I think about this time there might have been DVDs. So rented it from Best Blockbuster. Watched it at the house with the family. So that was the first time I watched it. Recent watch. I think it's my opinion hasn't really changed on it since I've watched all of these quite a few times, but rewatching it, I don't think my opinion has kind of changed on it with the addition of the Obi-Wan Kenobi seasons. So,
and that's one of the main reasons why we focused on this today. Not only is it 20 years old this year, but it's it's the start of Star Wars really fanboyism, if you will, on Disney Plus right now with Obi-Wan Kenobi coming out and more talks about something else coming out next year, I think. So we're like, oh, why not talk about the 20th anniversary of Episode 2? Edward, do you remember the first time that you checked this out, and what was it like revisiting it for this podcast?
Yeah, the first time I checked it out, it was not too long after the DVD first came out, I think. Loved it then. It wasn't as awesome as the others even then, but it was still great. Now, I mean, honestly, I'm trying to look at it at a different perspective. So there's that.
I remember the VHS of this. This is like one of the last VHS tapes that I think we got before we went to DVD. And I remember thinking that it was pretty cool. You'd see Anakin as a young adult, and then there was more lightsaber action to me in this one than there was any of the other ones, or at least the prequel first one. So it was pretty cool as a kid watching it. But throughout time, and especially for this episode, I don't know if I'll ever have the desire to watch it again.
I mean, you're always going to want to come back and revisit the trilogy. Yes, you will. Stop.
I feel like this was a perfect movie to just. I feel like you could almost watch Episode 1, Episode 3, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and not even pay attention to Episode 2 again.
But if they were to leave the Star Wars universe as it is now, yes. But for you, for people who go through and watch The Bad Batch, who go through and watch the Clone Wars, who go through and kind of delve into all of these side animated TV shows, video games, etc., the built-up story that this includes in the entire lore, it's. I agree. From 1 to 3, it feels like this is kind of, out of place. But if you're including the entire lore of not comics, but like books, games, sideshows, this is a part of it, and you have to watch it. And it's. I think you appreciate it when you do all of that.
It's definitely a part of it, but the thing I like about this is it's Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Movie-wise, Skywalker Saga-wise, I feel like we'll dig into. I mean, let's start off with you get your first look at Hayden Christensen as Anakin. 10 years later, I think he is a much better
20 years
upgrade. Well, in the story-wise.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Story-wise, it's 10 years later from Episode 1. He is definitely an upgrade from Jake Lloyd. If we're gonna follow up from Episode 1, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, for that, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And you get right off the bat, you get him meeting Padme again, and I don't know. We haven't really talked that much about Hayden Christensen, especially since we've been going over the Obi-Wan Kenobi episodes. But diving back into this one, what do you guys think about him rewatching it for this?
Personally, his acting is kind of choppy at times, but there are also times where it's like I can really see why he was casted as Anakin, and I can see kind of why, like, maybe they saw something in him that they probably didn't see in others. He has great moments in this movie, but then there are moments where you're kind of like, this is a young actor, and go ahead, Ed.
I think a lot of it was kind of the unclearness of what Anakin was feeling, as well as like how awkward it was supposed to be, because I don't think really looking at it, I don't think him and Natalie Portman had a ton of chemistry with each other, for that matter. Yeah. And I don't think it was either of their faults. I just don't think they did. But then in the long run with that, obviously we are experiencing what it has come to now. But I mean, as in passion for this, you can't really down the guy because in some of the interviews I've heard, the dude was literally like lightsaber battling his college roommate or something like that back when he first found out about him getting the part.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not like this dude knows nothing. It's not like the dude doesn't care. He's just like, okay, it's a paycheck. It's another whatever. He's passionate about it.
Yeah.
But I just don't think I think maybe the direction as well as him was kind of like not fully on the same page, as well as some of the interactions between him and Natalie Portman. Maybe Natalie Portman was outshining him since she was on movies a bit more. He was more on TV series. I think it was Dawson's Creek or something like that he came from.
Yeah, I'm going back and looking.
But Gilmore Girls or something.
One thing you can't fault him for is throughout 2 and 3, there is nobody else in this series that deals with having to act with more emotion than he does. He's falling in love with Padme and he's unsure if he's able to do it. He's irritated because he feels like he should be a part of the Jedi Council and he's not. He's dealing with the light side and the dark side, his mother. There's a lot of stuff that Hayden Christensen had to act and show emotion with that a lot of other actors don't have to show in this series. And it's not fair to judge him like, oh, he was cheesy in this movie and he didn't really act very well. Dude's the only one really showing multiple emotions in these movies.
Well, going back and rewatching this, that's what I was afraid of. But I'm like sitting here, watching the movie. I'm like, you know what? The thing I take away the most from this movie is how much more I appreciated Hayden Christensen in this movie. Just for those reasons that you mentioned. He is young and naive. He is judging and calling Obi-Wan's decisions out at the beginning of the movie, literally 15, 20 minutes into the film.
He even calls Padme's decisions out.
Yeah. So that's one of the positives that I took away from this past rewatch. I haven't seen this movie in about 2 years. And I don't know how it looks on Disney Plus, but if you guys are a physical media collector, the 4K looks absolutely stunning. Disney did like a really good job with these transfers, and I highly recommend that. But I will say I didn't have a problem with any of the characters this time around. My biggest issue with this movie this time around was just the arc,
the story
the story, and how, and not even the story, because I appreciate a good cheesy love story. One of my secret hidden gems is Twilight. So I don't mind the love cheesiness between Anakin and Padme. I think that's fine.
I think it was just the pacing and the exploring of everything going on with the Clone Wars.
Yeah, the pacing of the entire film for me. I look down and I'm like, oh, it had to be an hour 45 minutes into the movie. It's an hour into the movie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, when is this going to end? Stuff like I know Obi-Wan was a vital part in this story, but I feel like a lot of his scenes are wasted scenes in this movie.
Yeah.
Going and looking for the planets or the planet, how he sits down at the diner and he's explaining to the four-armed dude. Yeah. I wasted scene. I feel like this 2 hour and 20 minute movie should be cut down to at least like maybe 2 hours.
Yeah. I mean, I understand why they did it, because they're trying to show Kamino's been planted by Tyrannus or Darth Tyrannus and aka Dooku and Palpatine to create this clone army that they're wanting to use for their personal gain, and then Kenobi finds out about it.
Remember, it was Sifo-Dyas, not Dooku, that actually at first gone with it.
I'm sorry, Jango talks about Tyrannus assigning him for the mission. Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of stuff. It kind of shows like there is somebody in the Jedi Order that's pulling the strings for something bigger than what they know with the droid armies. And I think George Lucas had the idea correct, but the detailed
execution wasn't
the
correctly
execution was not
put
done
out.
very well. Yeah.
Because I mean, honestly, like the dude's trying to cover a war, a love story. You know, we've
Hayden
got
Christensen becoming Darth Vader.
You know, a religion going on in the background with the Jedi Order.
Yeah.
We've got, you know, all kinds of different stuff like that. You're putting as well as a detective scene, a couple of detective scenes in there. You're putting, you know, cloning in there. I mean, there's all
Protecting
this stuff
Padme from an assassin.
There's like a 4-hour movie compressed into this, basically.
Yeah.
And that's but that's terrible. You're sitting there explaining all that, how he's got a 4-hour movie in a 2.5-hour movie, and it still feels like you're watching a 4-hour fucking film.
And it's very much so, rewatching this is very much so like Jurassic World, where it felt like, okay, we're doing this for 30 seconds, we're jumping over to this. You know, it's we're following Obi-Wan on his quest to find the planet. We're jumping back to Anakin and Padme. We're jumping back to Obi-Wan. We're jumping back to Padme. We're jumping to Yoda talking about, you know, all the stuff that he's talking about in the movie. And the jumping between everything and trying to tell these stories is very tough to follow, and it makes it feel longer than it is.
I didn't have a hard time following it, but I do agree with you that there's too much to follow, and the pacing is so slow in the first hour and 30 minutes. I don't think it should take it. I mean, for a Star Wars film, at least, I don't think there should be only 2 action scenes in the first hour and a half.
Yeah. Well,
because nothing even really picks up big time wise in the first hour and a half until you get to Count Dooku at that hour and a half range.
Yeah. So the first 25 minutes of the movie is them meeting Padme and then following the assassin. You know, that's 25 minutes, and it feels like that should be 15 tops. Yeah.
It shouldn't even be that way. But there are some nice little Easter eggs in there. You get like, what'd you guys think of Padme's hairstyle? How it looked like a TIE fighter at the beginning of the movie. Did you guys catch that?
I did.
Yeah.
She got a little TIE fighter hairstyle going on. I did enjoy seeing Yoda's younglings class. How he was teaching the younglings, and then Obi-Wan came in to look for the lost planet.
And see, I think that was part of the needed thing, is because it's basically showing like what they can and can't do, for that matter. You know, because you've got Obi-Wan, and you've got to think like, dude's a master Jedi. Well, knights. No, he's a Jedi master at this time, if I'm not mistaken, right? Okay, so you know he's a master at this point. You know, and these kids are looking at him like, dude, it's Obi-Wan, bro. Like, look at this guy. What's he doing?
Yeah, and Yoda's asking him the question, and he's like, if you can't find it, where is it? And then the little kid's like, it was deleted. And Yoda's like, you know, free a child's mind is, or something like that.
Yeah.
So it is nice to see, you know, kind of the leading up, that Yoda isn't just some guy that sits around in a chair and talks about the war that's going on. He's actually training these Jedi, and it's just Padawan, young Jedi Padawan. But and then, you know, the little stuff in there is good.
You get Anakin's first assignment, which is to go off and, you know, protect Padme at all costs. And that's really like the start of he's always shown the love interest towards her, but this is really the start where she sends it back to him.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it, because I mean, some of the posters, it's in the top, in the top right corner of the poster right there. You can see, you know, this is what you wanted in a Star Wars love story. That's what Episode 2 to me really is. What do you guys think of the interactions and the building of the relationship of the two in this movie?
Well, I mean, you like how it's kind of awkward at first, because Anakin has the feelings, and you know he kind of shows it a little bit, but then he pulls it back, and he's like, you know, I feel this way for her. I've dreamed about her every day since I left, but you know, I don't know how she feels. So he kind of puts it out there, and it's like he's like fishing for her. And I think finally, once they get that assignment, you know, he gets the bite. And I do think it's kind of cheesy in some of the moments with the love story, and he talks about the sand and all that stuff, but it's a 2000s kind of romantic dialogue, and that's what it is. It's kind of cheesy, but at the same time, it's like it's heartfelt, and he meant the direction that he was going with the words and the script.
Ed, did you like the love story between the two in the movie?
Honestly, as a kid, I hated that part personally. That was kind of why I didn't like episode 2 for that matter, because like Geonosia, whatever. Geonosis, thank you. That was my favorite part, the huge lightsaber battle, all that was my favorite part, different stuff like that. So that's what held me on for that matter. And even the detective stuff, the Camino battle, I thought was awesome. Going through looking at the clones was awesome and stuff like that, as well as just like even the arena on Geonosis, I thought was awesome. But it's the little things like that I could just watch anything else other than that, and I was fine at those little points.
So I'm not comparing this to Batman or to the Batman at all. But I do like how this kind of felt like a detective Star Wars video game in some aspects of certain scenes, especially when Obi-Wan is on the little island where it's just raining constantly, and he kind of battles Jango Fett for a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that was a really terrific scene. I feel like I would have rather had more of those kind of interactions than just
the big Geonosis battle.
Yeah,
but I mean that's what the Clone Wars is. It's building up towards that, and it allows the clones to come in, and it shows that they're a part of the light side, and it shows that as much as Obi-Wan wants to say like don't do this, don't do that, follow my lead, it's like we still ended up in the same spot, and I think that also builds toward Anakin maybe thinking like, dude, if we're in the same spot and you told me not to do something, like, why is your word any better than mine? Because we're in the same spot. We're both chained up. And I think that also, it's something that's not directly said, but when you break it down and watch it, you can kind of build from that and put that. If you're Anakin, you're like, why am I taking words from this guy whenever, like he's going to put me in the same spot regardless of my choice or not?
Yeah. For sure, when you look at it that way.
And I just think that helps build towards Anakin feeling like he's more independent than what Obi-Wan is. Trying to break away from that.
And I think we kind of take it for granted, because I know I did whenever I was watching the Obi-Wan series. You don't get a lot of Obi-Wan and Anakin in this movie.
No,
you don't get it all. And some of the scenes in the Obi-Wan show, you're like, man, let me go back and watch some more of that. So going back and rewatching episode 2, I'm like, yes, we'll get some more of that. I'm like, I kind of got disappointed again because there's not a lot of interactions between the two.
You see the training scene with them, and in the Obi-Wan show, you see the training scene, you see all the stuff that they kind of went through, and I do wish there was just a little bit more of them doing solo missions, not having to deal with Padme or anything like that. And I think you could have easily done that initially to start the movie instead of going straight into the assassin. You could have done,
kind of like what episode 3 came in on. The going to get the chancellor and all that. You could have had a mission, going off up in space.
Yeah,
with them,
it could have started halfway through.
Planet.
Yeah, and I think just a mission dealing not with the Sith, not with anybody else, just a mission on their own. Not dealing with anything other than them going to find something to rescue somebody, a Jedi or something. That I think that would have been much better than starting off with the assassin right off the bat. And you could have just dealt with the drone dropping Jango hiring the person to drop the bugs into the room. And I think that would have been perfect instead of them, her initially trying to blow up the ship and all of that. But
because I mean, I don't know. It just kind of seems like some of it was jumbled up predominantly.
I feel like the first hour and 20 minutes was completely jumbled up. Like this is a tale of two movies here.
Yeah.
And I think from the moment that almost say Obi-Wan gets captured and, Samuel Jackson tells Anakin, you have to stay there and protect Padme. And Padme's like, he told you to stay here, not me. And she goes to go rescue Obi-Wan. I think that's a so much better half of the movie compared to the first hour.
Yeah.
And half.
Well,
and I'm like, it's just, it just really, really picks up, especially when he goes, it's a little bit before that, but he goes and looks for his mom.
Yeah. It's like literally when they're on the ship and he gets the transmission from Obi-Wan, that is right after he buries his mom. Yeah. So, I mean, if you were to add him kind of looking for his mom and searching for that up until the end, I think that is a good story. That is very well told. That is directly, here's the story, here's the plot. Let's put it out there. There's no jumbling to the rest of the movie.
Did you guys like the fact that they hinted that they played hide the lightsaber with Padme and Anakin?
I get what you're saying. I was like, yeah.
I mean, like the next morning, her hair is a little jumbled, and he's like, did you like the fact, or did you feel like you needed at least one more physicality to make sure that they really did?
No, because I mean, honestly, like you've got to think that there's 3 years in between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. So I mean, 9 months go from there. But I'm just saying, like, you don't need that for that matter. Because I mean, the whole story and then the marriage at the end, is.
I think that all solidifies everything. I mean, you kind of understand, like, they're alone on a planet. You know what I mean? But he was sleeping by himself, right? Because she comes out and she's like, "Hey, her job nightmares."
That's what I wanted to bring up. I wasn't trying to be, cute or funny or haha and talk about stuff like that. But I wanted to bring it up because there's those talks out there about how everybody always brings religion into Star Wars. So I wanted to bring up the fact that was Leia and Luke transmitted asexually? To where
no,
I'm talking about to where he didn't even have to touch her. His thoughts were just so powerful that maybe you know what I mean? Like he just mentally impregnated her.
No, they definitely got it on. It's just
like you're thinking about what happened with Anakin, for that matter. Anakin's conception,
right,
through Shmi, for that matter. And I mean, there's theories about
Shmi,
that.
We're not talking about Captain Hook here.
Shmi Skywalker.
I'm just teasing.
But there's theories out there about Palpatine actually not getting it on with his mom, but basically
planting the seed. That's what I was bringing up to this situation. Was did Anakin be so powerful enough that his thoughts impregnated her?
They did it. I just think George Lucas implied that, hey, they're married, she's pregnant. Obviously,
I mean, they're not going to go ahead and have a get it on scene in
That's
Star
not what
Wars.
That's not what I'm trying to.
No, I get what you're saying. Yeah,
right.
I get what you're saying, but it was definitely conceived by both. But the scene when he's talking to Padme, Anakin's talking to Padme after he kills all of the Sand People, and he's like, "I slaughtered them." Not just the men, but the women and the children, and you can just see the anger. Like he knows it's wrong, but he couldn't hold back the anger. It's just I don't want to say he enjoyed it because he tells her, he's like, "I'm a Jedi. We're not supposed to be able to, we don't do the anger." You can just tell that he's dealing with these emotions, and I think that scene very well, like it's a very good encapsulation of how he's having to deal with both sides. Like he knows it's wrong, but the anger inside of him is just so prominent that he can't deal with it.
I think a lot of the problems with Anakin stemmed from the whole Qui-Gon Obi-Wan thing. I'm not saying Obi-Wan did a bad job with Anakin. I'm just saying he didn't understand how to raise a boy.
You're putting the blame on Obi-Wan now.
No. I'm putting the blame fully on the killing off of Qui-Gon Jinn, for that matter. But that was necessary to put the whole story into effect because Obi-Wan's an older brother, not a father. It's like your older brother poking you in the head. The policy. Says.
We talked about this last year during episode 1. We were like, how much of a difference would it have been if Qui-Gon died in episode 2 and not episode 1?
Right.
What kind of impact would that have made on Anakin?
Huge.
Huge. One thing that I heard somebody talk about it. I can't remember who. I think it might have been Star Wars Theory. It's a YouTube channel, but he was saying, he thinks Anakin viewed Qui-Gon as the father figure. Mm-hmm. And since Obi-Wan was under Qui-Gon, he viewed him as a brother. And so he viewed him as an equal instead of somebody who should be giving him directions. And that's why there's so much putback from all of Obi-Wan's directions. Like, don't do this, don't do that. And he's like, why should I? We should be doing this. And he's like, don't question me. And I think that's what that is. He views Obi-Wan as a brother. And they even use that terminology. You are my brother, Anakin. Like, I think there's hidden messages and hidden ways that they talk to each other that build on why Anakin was so pushbacky with Obi-Wan.
Because, I don't think Qui-Gon Jinn would have shoved the policies onto Anakin as much as Obi-Wan did.
Qui-Gon's views were very different as a Jedi, though.
As a whole, different Jedi
whole.
For that matter. Because I think Qui-Gon would have actually gone to the Sand People with him and maybe even negotiated for her, or would have.
But you can't bring that up because Obi-Wan couldn't be there physically for him. He wasn't
there. Yeah, and Obi-Wan was on his own mission. This was Anakin's mission, and I think what Qui-Gon would have done for Anakin differently is he would have, instead of when Obi-Wan talks to him, he's like, you can't be angry, you can't be this, you can't be that. And I think Qui-Gon had a different philosophy of understanding your feelings and how to
putting them in the closet,
not putting them away, but how to actually deal with your feelings instead of telling you, no, that's wrong.
Suppress
you can't do
basically.
It. Yeah. And I think that's the difference between what Qui-Gon would have done between father figure and brother.
Yeah. Because, then, we'd have a whole different saga. But, of course, things have to go the way they go on.
But that story, that's
simple as that. But, as far as this goes, there's a ton of... There was a bit of decency in the first hour and a half, in my eyes. Say going the whole scene, the chase scene from the apartment or hotel or whatever that was, all the way until the bar, that was cool. Like the whole speeder scene when Anakin's doing this thing.
It just feels like it was too much, though, too long.
Yeah, and don't wrong. Yeah, because
that's the difference between good storytelling though and a popcorn flick. Like an action movie, you can have 30 minutes of wasted scenes and nobody cares because it's all about the meat and potatoes of the movie. Compared to when,
that is what you're going to the movie for.
Right.
Whereas that action scene, I don't think that, the more and more you watch it, you're like, man, I know what happens here. It's just driving and chasing. Yep. Like there's not much happening in that. The dialogue between the two is very quick. It's
this is the first time a new generation gets introduced to a bounty hunter, though. What'd you guys think?
Yep.
Jango is very, I don't know. It's the same person, but I just feel like Jango's not as badass as what Boba was in the originals.
Dude, I'm going to turn the tables on that. I'm going to say Boba was a bitch compared to Jango. Because don't get me wrong, you've got Jango doing all this different shit. And predominantly Boba was a background character that really didn't mean shit.
Boba was a background character, yes, but compared...
I didn't mean to bring up the whole comparison issue. I was just trying to bring up what did you guys think of Jango? Because this is the first time our generation got introduced to Jango. Boba Fett, give or take what you will, that character was only in 3 movies for a total of 6 minutes.
Yeah.
So compared
Being
to
able to
Trask, I don't
see
think
under the helmet and
Right.
everything, I think it added more character to what the character was.
And that kind of taught his son, when you're during a battle, you don't do this.
Yeah.
You know, kind of thing.
It's, I think it's showing that he strictly is a bounty hunter.
Yeah.
And he is there to assassinate Amidala, and he hires somebody else to do the dirty work. He still kind of has the levels to being an assassin or a bounty hunter. And there was a video game that came out in like 2004-ish, right around there, called StarWars Bounty Hunter. And you were Jango Fett, and you did complete bounties. And it was good. You were able to kind of see that side of what that character was. And so, yeah, I think the initial generation that got to see this has a much bigger respect for what the bounty hunter is in this, leading on to Boba. And I think that's why Boba hits a little bit better in the new Star Wars shows with our generation, because we were so accustomed to seeing a bounty hunter in our initial watches with Star Wars.
Yeah.
But see, you even say that in our initial watches. He's only in episode 2 for a little bit. I find it really interesting that they bring in a bounty hunter in episode 2, and they automatically introduce you to the person behind the helmet and the son. And I'm like, that's not what I want. I want the unknown of a bounty hunter.
But they have to introduce it because they are building the clone army based off of his abilities. You know what I mean? Like the soldiers are based off of his knowledge and abilities to be able to fight. And so they're building an army of assassins, basically.
I mean, the funniest thing about Boba, for that matter, and I think the best creative thing they did back in 02 was introduce that he was a clone, for that matter, but a clone that grew at a natural rate instead of an expressed rate.
Right.
You know, because, I mean, honestly, that gives a lot of things to where, you know, he could come back and do what he did, you know, replay the role, for that matter, as, you know, different person or different persons, you know, as well as he did back then for the clone army, whenever they had helmets off, or even voice acting, for that matter. You know, I think that was great, and kind of a little seed that they planted here and there, just in case, you know, episode 10 or whatever comes out, you know, kind of stuff like that.
I can't remember what actually happens to Boba in this film. I know Jango gets his head cut off from Mace.
And then basically he's holding the helmet and he's like rocking it, pretty much.
And that's the last you see?
Yeah, that's the last you see.
Okay. So I think that he never finds anything different other than knowing what his dad taught him, which is being a bounty hunter, which is exactly what he turns into with Jabba. Yeah. And so, you know, I think it would have been better for a Book of Boba series to deal with between that and finding Jabba. I think that would have been a better miniseries.
So do you find it kind of messed up that, or do you find it kind of cool that Vader actually picks Boba to be one of his personal bounty hunters, knowing, you know, exactly who that kid was and how his father died? Or clone senior or whatever.
I don't know. He may not know. He may not know that the child grows into that.
Yeah, because Anakin was trying to escape that whole little scenario while Mace Windu killed Jango.
Yeah, Anakin doesn't deal with Boba or Jango at that moment. He doesn't know that that's Jango's son.
I mean, possibly not, but
I mean,
yeah,
he knows that there's a bounty hunter, but just because you're wearing the same armor doesn't mean you have any relations to that guy, you know? So I do think that it's pretty cool that happens, but I don't think there was any, like, I remember fighting your dad, you know?
Yeah. So once, you know, you finally get to see Count Dooku, and an hour and a half into it, as Obi-Wan is held hostage. And then you have the glorious production scene of Anakin, Padme, and the droids going through the production factory of the clone army.
Wasted time.
Yeah.
Wasted time and a wasted lightsaber, man. What the hell?
I think you could have done that capture way better and way faster.
Yeah.
The whole going to the production factory was. We know droids are made at an accelerated rate. We know that. We don't need to see a factory to be like, well, these are how droids are made. Like, no, put them.
I thought they were born.
You could put them into a situation where Anakin has to fight somebody with a lightsaber. Doesn't have to be Count Dooku, but somebody that maybe be under Count Dooku for that moment.
Like a General Grievous. Not necessarily Grievous, but similar to that.
And
like
you're able to see Anakin do a lightsaber fight without Obi-Wan watching.
Because
Aunt will be helping.
Every time he does a saber fight, he gets his his ass whipped, but he kind of just goes to school.
But Obi-Wan's there to watch him,
right?
If they would have done a lightsaber fight with him with somebody else, regardless of who, and just see Anakin get his ass kicked by somebody with the dark side, I think that would have had more prominent effect with, seeing more anger when he fights Count Dooku, where it's like, I got my ass kicked last time, I'm about to put it on you. Yeah. And then he makes the mistake and gets his arm cut off. I think that would have helped a lot more in that situation. But again, that's all very booking.
So we already talked about Jenga's death. What do you guys think of the final fight where Count Dooku kind of, he kind of sticks it to Obi-Wan and Anakin, cuts off his forearm, and Anakin and Obi-Wan are laying over there like Mario and Princess Peach.
Again, Obi-Wan has a plan, and Anakin's like, nah, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you're not my dad.
You're not my dad.
And so he goes in and immediately force lightning. And that's another thing. Like, we never get to see him ever fight a Sith. So we don't know if he knows anything about Sith powers of lightning or anything, because Obi-Wan immediately just puts up his lightsaber and absorbs it. Yep. Whereas Anakin may not have any idea that exists. And so
how to combat it.
Yeah.
But then you see old 3-foot-inch Yoda come in. And I remember watching this for the first time on VHS, and I'm like, yo, what the hell? Yoda's just like lighting it up,
He's that dude.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you come in and he's hobbling and stuff like that, and it's like, okay, he's about to use a bunch of force powers.
I remember, first time I saw that, I was like, yeah,
because like
Yoda's that dude.
My wife just recently, like within the past 2 weeks, watched it, and she was like, he's really gonna come in and do something. And then when she seen it, she was just like, oh my god, are you sick? She was blown away by it, and it was kind of cool just to see her reaction to a person, coming from my stance to where I knew who and I knew how he did his stuff, and then going to that to where she had no idea. And it was just cool to see, like, okay, he's 900 years old, but dude can jet. Dude's got powers.
That's the first time you ever see Yoda fight.
Uh-huh.
In 4, 5, 6, nope. and Nuts doesn't fight in 1. So that's the first time you ever see him pull out a lightsaber.
Yeah. Which I thought it was kind of cool that it was a,
It was
no, it's not.
Mini lit.
Am I lying? No, I'm not. Yeah, that's the first time.
No. Yeah, you don't see him in 4, 5, 6 ever do anything with a lightsaber.
I was thinking of episode 3 when he fights Palpatine in
in the
hall. Yeah,
right. So episode 2, and going back and rewatching it, when I saw him pull out the saber, I'm like, okay, let's see. Hopefully this isn't. I knew it was going to be fun, but I'm like, okay, is everything else in this movie going to be just completely drawn out and super long like everything else was? But I'm glad that they kept that short and sweet. Mm-hmm. Count Dooku kind of, was hiding for the trails a little bit.
Well, because he knows it's Master Yoda.
Used that big old tank looking thing like he was going to crush Anakin and Obi-Wan so he could hurry up and jet. And then the ending is kind of bittersweet. The Jedi's over there kind of licking their wounds, getting ready for the war, and Anakin and Padme are tying the knot with his Terminator hand. So,
like father, like son.
Give or take, I think the ending was okay. What'd you guys think?
All right. I think the ending was pretty rushed compared to what they have in the movie. I mean, like, you spend 30 minutes on them in a factory. You spend 30 minutes on them in a fight. Then it's just like Dooku escapes. You have a scene with Yoda and Mace Windu, and it's like the John Williams score starts. And it's
I got to say, I do like the slow Jedi go lick their wound ending to this one compared to the Gungan City celebration of episode 1.
Yeah.
The nice little haircut of Anakin, the burning of Qui-Gon. I really do think that the ending to episode 2 was a little bit better. I do feel like it was rushed as well, but I wasn't a big fan of the Gungan City celebration of episode 1. Yeah.
I think they were trying to force it to be like 4, where Luke, Han, and Chewie get their medals.
Yeah.
So, that's the movie. There's good parts, there's bad parts. It was rushed, it wasn't rushed. Like you said, it was a tale of two movies, pretty much.
Yeah. My biggest issue was just the whole pacing of the movie. The entire 2 hours and 20 minutes felt like a 4-hour fucking movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of how I felt about it too. Ed, we'll start with you. Do you have any favorite scenes or favorite scene?
Yeah, man. The Genosian fight or arena fights, basically, start to finish, for that matter. Around the survivors, a perimeter create. The end of that, for that matter, all the way back until they bring out all three of them, Anakin and Padme, to meet Obi-Wan in the execution scene, as well as the fight with Dooku, for that matter. It shown a lot of different things of how arrogant and how impatient, even after 10 years worth of training, that Anakin truly is, and that maybe Yoda was right. Maybe the Council did have their rights to have the fears that they did, for that matter. So, yeah.
Greg, what about you? Do you have a favorite scene you want to name off?
I like the Obi-Wan Jango scene.
In the rain.
Cool.
In the rain,
Yeah.
It was good. CGI is it is what it is. It's 03
It's
movie,
right.
04 movie. So the scene in the rain, I liked the Genosian fights. I liked how all the Jedi are there. That's the first time you really could see a lot of Jedi together.
More than 3 or 4.
I just wish, there was, going back to it, I wish they introduced more, like, you don't even have to show like a storyline for a Jedi, but this is this Jedi, one of the more prominent Jedis that are in lore. I just wish they would have done a little bit more. So there's that scene. And then I do like the kind of the seeing the Genosian battle on the actual field, because you're actually you see the army getting built for the clones, and you see the army getting built for the droids, and now you actually see them out on a battlefield dealing with all that. That was pretty cool. And then just the Count Dooku battle at the end. So
I didn't bring it up, but I loved being introduced to Owen and Aunt Beru. I loved Anakin going and finding his mother, and then taking the revenge on the Sand People.
Yeah.
And the dialogue between him and Padme afterwards, and him saying him saying he blames Obi-Wan. If you notice, as soon as he felt guilty for killing the Sand People and the babies, he automatically started blaming somebody.
Yeah.
And he was blaming Obi-Wan, that it was all Obi-Wan's fault. And then I do like the cheesiness love story of the back and forth between Padme and Anakin. And then the Count Dooku scene at the end was a fun battle.
Honestly, I've got to say one more thing. So one of my more favorite characters that really is kind of a just they're gone kind of thing that we got introduced to was Jocasta Nu, the librarian lady. I found her pretty cool just because, to be able to protect that, as well as have, because I think she's one of the sentient or gray Jedis, because doesn't she have a yellow lightsaber, if I'm not mistaken?
I off the top of my head, I don't know.
But
if she's gray and she's just a temple guard, then yeah, it would be a yellow.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. So,
favorite scene, or not favorite scene? Star rating 1 out of 10.
I'm gonna go ahead and give a 7 to this one. Strong 7.
7.
Yeah, more appreciation for it this time around. Kind of trying to look for things that are good with it instead of just trying to look for in spite things, as well as not being like a pushover with the love story angle. So
going into it with an open mind, I wanted to
Basically.
like it a lot more than I did. I'm going to give this movie a 5, just because of how slow and how unentertaining I felt the first hour was. I kind of was just looking at my watch, looking at my phone. I really did want to be entertained and find a reason to put this Star Wars movie with the other ones. This isn't even like, if I want to watch a Star Wars movie and I'm going to go for one to watch, this probably doesn't even make the top 5 or 6. So again, the rewatchability for Obi-Wan Kenobi series and for this episode is probably the only reason I picked it up, and I don't think I'll ever have the desire to rewatch it again. So this movie gets a 5 for me. It's not terrible, but it's far from the best. Craig, what about you?
I'm going to give it a 6. My as a kid, you were kind of waiting for the big parts to happen, and this one had a lot of those big parts initially. But looking, rewatching it and kind of catching the dialogue and all that stuff, it's just a 6. There's good parts, there's bad parts. I do feel like the first half is not completely, but it really deals with just a lot of storylines that I don't think they have in a straight line.
They're not memorable.
Yeah. And so, there are good parts. There are memorable parts. You get introduced to a lot of characters. It stemmed a lot of good video games. The Clone Wars stems off to a lot of good extra series. So I'll kind of tip my hat off to that in regard that, George Lucas was trying to dig into just more than dealing with the Skywalker saga. He was wanting to kind of show things that happened throughout this time period. And so, it's not the greatest. I agree with you, Johnny. If I go for a Star Wars movie, it's not going to be the one that I pick up.
not first,
but to have it in the storyline, to have it in Star Wars lore, I think it's good. And so I'm going to give it a 6.
And guys, if you like bonus episodes, then this is just the start of a whole new season coming up, because next week we are talking about We Were Soldiers, a 20th anniversary inside look at the Mel Gibson war film. Next Thursday, July the 7th, me and Zach are going to break down and talk about the 20th anniversary of We Were Soldiers next Thursday right here on this YouTube channel, 7:30 p.m. next week. But guys, on Monday, this is what we're just like excited for. Live on location. It's the 200th episode, Independence Day, July 4th, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Come see us at Rodeo Cinema, 2221 Exchange Avenue, right here in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. There's going to be fireworks. There's going to be giveaways. There's going to be everything on Monday. There's going to be a San Marcos gift certificate handed out. There's going to be all these prizes behind me that I have posted. They're going to be right there Monday. Come see us live this Monday, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. And celebrate the 200th episode with the Cine-Men Movie Podcast live. Get your tickets now. They're free. Free tickets now available.
Monday.
So other than that, guys, I think that's it. I think we did Attack of the Clones justice. So everybody good?
I'm good.
Until Monday, I hope everybody has a safe and fabulous 4th of July weekend. Don't forget Rodeo Cinema this Monday, 200th episode, live Independence Day lobby show, Cine-Men Movie.